So now, please join me in welcoming on stage Professor Anshuman Karmarkar, Assistant Professor IIT Kanpur, Dr. Vishal Saraswat, Cybersecurity Expert at BGSW, Mr. Ali Khan, Global Head at GRC and Audit at Seven Associates, and Mr. Harpreet Walia, Senior Product Manager at DSCI. The rest of the panelists, welcome all. I would like to start with you, Professor Karmarkar. So now you've been at the forefront of the quantum PQC algorithm research at KU. Could you paint the picture on what are your beginnings and where we are heading right now and where we stand as a country as of today?
So, we knew about this quantum research algorithm for a long time back. Even before, I'm not at the same time that AISS was developed, the McKinsey code that was there. Then, at the end of 90s, we got through, but it was COVID. But that time, ECC and ISO was already in mainstream, and they didn't really hold water with the new people speaking hold water. I think it really that started from the 2004 when Vijay proposed this build a this part then it becomes really fast, and then because of new research is that quantum computers might be available. That time people said 10 years now, 20 years. So then it became really popular, and then NIST started this standardization. So now the standardization is over. Of course, there is a new call again for smaller signatures. So yeah, I mean we have at least some algorithms ready to be used if necessary. And then of course now actually lots of research has to be done how they can be adapted, because it's not like these algorithms are one size that we solve. For applications, different applications we have to modify, change, different things we have to see. So yeah, and as a country in India, I don't think there is not much at this moment, but let's see.
Thanks. And you've briefly touched upon the gap between the theoretical implementation and the deployment. So my next question is for Mr. Ali Khan. So if you may just briefly tell us about what are the things that one needs to keep in mind when we are going from the theoretical implementation to the practical deployment. If you can share your thoughts on this.
Thank you so much. I think the standardization effort has already started across. Right, yes, standardization effort has started across India, wider coverage. Right from establishing the right evaluation criteria, what should be the security consideration, what should be the agility consideration, what are the performance metrics to be worked. So a lot more focus needs to go in terms of the standardization, where the industry and experts have come together, both academia as well as active professionals, to see what can be a practical implementation guide for organization to adopt in terms of its techniques. That's one point. The other thing that is also important to start considering is the agility of adoption. When we talk about, we are constantly in a digital evolution. We've got AI sitting in a storm, we've got generative AI that's been rocking the boat since 2023 and literally shaking up the ecosystem. We've got a lot of new emerging technologies. So how do we try and ensure that the new developments are agile enough to scale up to adopting them? Now that is a consideration that requires a strong assessment. The third important piece that I would also say is, more of the right prototyping and piloting something like this. We have a lot of unknowns when it comes to implementation. Theoretically, a lot of algorithms hash existing, but then when you want to bring it into an enterprise ecosystem environment, we have the right knowledge from security, regulatory considerations on what are going to be the roadblocks and the walls that we are going to put into when we start adopting, when we start implementing it on ground. there is a lot of need for small pilot, micro scale studies to happen and prototypes to happen, and the learnings get documented and not just stay within closed walls, but float across the broader industry as well, so that there is more research happening on it, more thought process going into it, and common challenges that come across start becoming a part of the problem. So I think these are a couple of top three things, but in terms of the gaps in theory versus practical are innumerous. So that's what I would say.
So my next question is for Dr. Vishal. As Mr. Ali Khan was mentioning that, right, we need a lot of pilots, but obviously for pilot to happen, you need to have a product that needs to design. So how should one go about even designing a secure product that has PQC capabilities in it?
Comes to implementation, some of the challenges that we are already implementing PQC in some of the products. And when you implement this, some of the challenges that we are facing is the current existing ecosystem that has somehow managed to integrate PKI to be even integrated PKI was a pain. Within PKI, when people said, okay, instead of RSA, use elliptic curve cryptography, that was another thing to deal with. It was not easy to move from RSA to ECDSA or EDSA for signatures or other PCC algorithms or even different algorithms. So now when we are trying to move to a completely different set of algorithms, first changing the algorithm in the software, even if everything else is okay, that's okay. Now, when you implement this PCC algorithms, which algorithm to use? With RSA, you knew, okay, I have this RSA or I have this ECDSA, your parameters were fixed, you didn't have to think too much on that. So many PPC algorithms, standardization process is still going on. Some standards are still there, which people don't even know that there are standards on PPC, and some draft standards are out, but very likely they are evolving. So by the time they become a draft, they will be completely different from what they are right now. At least the parameters will be very different from what they are right now. So shall I start now or shall I wait for the standardization to be done? So yes, we can wait for standardization to be done, or we can use the current standards if you know how to use them. And then when you are implementing these algorithms come with a lot of different bandwidth requirements. So that you have to worry about. Can my network support this much bandwidth? And especially when you are working with products, like if I am working within my car and I want to use some sort of PPC algorithm, I only have so much space for the payload. In that payload, fitting the post-quantum signature may not be possible. Fitting the post-quantum encryption of the key may not be possible. How do I do that fit? And then when you are working, that's again in any scenario, how fast is the verification time? If I am authenticating somebody and it's a real-time situation, you don't authenticate very fast. So at least can I authenticate as fast as I authenticate RSA signature? Second, so your bandwidth, your time. Now, memory requirements. When you execute the algorithm, you will need certain memory. Do you have that much memory during the execution? And the code of the algorithm itself. You have to store that code somewhere. Again, do you have enough memory? So, what we do is we do all these trade-offs. We do analysis of how much bandwidth we have, how much time, within how much time certain operations should be done, how much memory we have for execution, how much memory we have for storage, and then of course storage of the credentials themselves, storing the certificates, storing the secret keys. And if those keys are large, or if the certificates are large, again that's another problem. Because those will be generally stored in a secure location. Those will be stored generally in some one-time programmable memory. Okay? You can't change them just like that. That is another challenge. So we do all this trade-off, and then the trade-off with the security. rid of with the risks and the right implementation. Uh, Compared to other companies, Bosch has an advantage that we have a very strong control team in there. So we keep up with the standardization process, of course, but we can at least uh, foresee possibly better than the others. So yeah, that's a question.
Next question for Mr. Harpreet. So, the core of all the digital products and services that we use is the trust. Right? So, simply, can you help us understand why is PQC important? Why should we even build a system with the PQC capabilities? Why is it important as
Yeah, sure. So, if you think about it, like right now we're staying in a hyper-connected world, right? Everything's connected to everything. So, and again, the boundaries of a network or security, like with architectures like zero trust and security being parameterless, trust is any transaction, interaction, communication that we do has to be secure and trustworthy, right? So, and that's basically what digital trust is, right? Like extending a trust, the core value which we have as humans, right? I trust something and in my regular interaction, and that is extending to the digital world, right? Now, encryption plays a key role in that scenario, right? Where uh, when we send a message, sign a document, right, digitally, or do anything of that sort, we want to be sure that that document is not tampered with, right? It's trusted, and it will be trusted for its lifetime also, right? So, because there are two aspects to securing anything, right? First is what is important to secure, and second, how long do you want it to be secured. So that's where PQC now is kind of disruptive because quantum computers can now break this trust in the current algorithms that we were talking about. So essentially, imagine like there's a piece or important document you've signed, and PQC comes along, or quantum computers come along, and somebody can tamper with it, right? Maybe it's your bill, right? So I'm just taking a simple example. So it's important that we move and we make sure that we can continue to keep that trust established. Right? So there are scenarios like what we call harvest now, decrypt later kind of stuff, right? Where the data can be stored now, and then when a quantum computer is available, previous information could be decrypted. Right? So it's important that we brace ourselves and kind of get ready for a scenario where that can happen, and then to take corrective measures and preventive measures to be ready for that. So I think that's very
Mr. Karmakar, so since you Mr. Karmakar, so you're part of the research group that designed the Saber, which is one of the finalists for the PQC algorithm. So can you walk us through the standardization process that you followed? That documentation, what are things that you had to submit to NIST? And when do you see the mass adoption of this PQC algorithm happening, not just in India but also worldwide?
Okay, so I think the NIST first called for the standardization in 2016, and from 17 we started submitting schemes. Initially the submission guideline was that you have to make it fast. The side channel, it should be easy to incorporate the side channel or fault attack, this attack countermeasures, and then write these documentations on how it should be written in such a way that anyone who has no idea about this, how this quantum computer works, they can also take this and implement, and it should work. This is how it worked, and I think it went for 3 rounds. Initially, there were 56 candidates all over the world, and after 2 rounds, there were only 4 candidates. Okay, our scheme, Seva, is one of them. And then for Kyber was chosen for not for entirely academic reasons, but there were many other reasons. Kyber was chosen, but then by the time we found out that these lattice schemes which have been designed like dilithium, the signature size is so huge, you really cannot use it that much. So then again, a new call has came up for shorter signatures. And okay, we have also designed a very short signature scheme, which is multi-gadgets. The key size is less than 100 bytes now. It's even shorter than electricals, ECG, it's IDH is broken anyway. So yeah, this was initial, this is how the flow happened. But even after this, okay, now if you are talking about adoption, I would like you to start adopting as soon as possible. But now I understood what Ali said and Vishal said. Yeah, this is true that how you have many parameters, and also remember that this all of these attacks, these parameters is going to change in future, no matter when it's standardized, it being standardized. Think about how this elliptical or RSS came to evolve. We had elliptical standards, but after that, this ED255 model came, right? So it is going to change anyway. So this is how we design these things. That there is a paradigm, probably you know this hardware software co-design. So we like to keep as much as possible in hardware, but some programmability on the software. That if some things change, we can change it without changing the underlying hardware, and that's what we do actually. So yeah, with these things, probably you can. You should know that you may know that Amazon and Google have already started incorporating Frodo and Kyber in some of their other test cases. They have already done that. Sabre was also incorporated in some of the skills, but those are not public. So unfortunately, I cannot tell them. But yeah, it was implemented in some. Intru 10 was also incorporated in some products already. So yeah, and then mass adaptation, I think. Again, because after the standardization, we are now looking into efficient implementations, right? Then again, this type of attacks, like I think we are now almost understand how these side channels work. But again, we have to design good countermeasures. The problem is that once you incorporate, put the countermeasures in, their timing, their everything almost halves or even becomes lower. So then, how we use it. So this type of things research has to done before it can be implemented. But yeah, initial versions like what is a micro scale, it doesn't work. Yeah, so I just want to finish this, but by telling that think about RS and SSRS was in the 1970s. It took almost decades to be implemented in right now for a year. PQC basically started in 2010 or 2012. A mass research on PQC. So we are only one ticket, and of course there are lots of work is being going on, but it takes some time.
It's interesting that you thought that you wanted to start the adoption as of today, but Mr. Ali Khan, when organizations want to start adoption of the PQC algorithms, what are some of the risks that they need to keep in mind, and where do you see us adopting these standards or in the next 5-10 years, and how do organizations have to manage this effectively?
So it's a tricky question. I was trying to prepare for this as well when I read the summary. When we talk about risk management, specifically for something PQC, we're talking about assessing uncertainty or something that itself is uncertain. So, a very, very long conversation that we multiple sessions and so on. But then, when I was trying to ponder over it, what are some practical guidance that I could probably give back to the audience? I thought about 6 different risk areas, which I did bullet down so that I can seamlessly narrate that back to you. The first point that I was thinking about is more of the algorithm maturity. So we heard Anshuman talk about it as well. That when we talk about our newly proposed PQC algorithms, at times they lack the real world implementation or evaluation or validation for the scheme. Now that leads to a lot of unknowns in itself in terms of resilience to cyber attacks. We don't know what are the loopholes that are left back that could give advantage to the cyber attack. We think in terms of trying to remediate this is definitely a lot of evaluation, a lot of assessments. Prototyping is a very good way. Try and engage with industry standardization. But that's more of a lot of more industry bodies like ISO, INAP, etc. would have to step in try and give diverse viewpoints with different experts in the diverging approach. I know Vishal's organization is doing some work related to sanitization, which would be fabulous to learn across for the broader industry. The second one, which again Vishal was touching upon, is one of the interoperability challenges when we are talking about existing systems and the legacy protocols.
Yeah, right.
Having at times even communication challenges between the PQC algorithms as well as the existing traditional systems that we would like to put out. Again, gradual implementation or phased implementation, I did mention about piloting certain practices at a small scale and then trying to deploy the organization by fixing that learning curve as well. You can keep bringing back your learnings into the broader rollout strategy that will be helpful. Third one, going back to what Vishal said when he spoke about the network, resource constraints. When we are talking about resource constraints, I'm going to be saying the cost and the time. Also, the hardware limitations need to be factored and planned beforehand. Otherwise, I'm just going to start hitting you on a stone. Important topic: security risk during the transition phase. It's very, very important to think about it. Now, consider this that you are implementing PQC, and there are your existing systems with existing encryption and crypto parameters that are going through. Now, PQC is not going to get implemented, even if it's a small protocol that you find. There will be a transition time period where some systems are folding in the old protocols and your newer systems are in the adoption. That window, it becomes an important vantage point for an attacking perspective who may have knowledge that there are X number of systems that are not yet adopted, and that becomes a tricky in terms of preventing security attacks. So it is very, very important to have thinking of what is going to be this implication of this window of opportunity that we're leaving open. Can we start thinking of a hybrid approach in terms of risk remediation? Move forward with PQC, but at least have some hybrid controls pre-planned so that there is a broader coverage of the those. Last and important one, the sixth one, the impact to regulations, specifically from data protection standpoint. Now, our regulators today across the globe are very particular with a lot of fixed rigid standards that have to be applied across the let me take a very simple example. Right? When we talk about very high security privacy code standards, HITRUST becomes a gold class. Now, HITRUST would even demand your policy documentation to be written in a particular style in the language format to your controls demonstrating at very rigid frequencies to your samples being assessed at an X within a 90-day period. Now, these are very, very rigid. Even your rules will have a lot of documentation. And HITRUST will not give an assurance to the regulators unless it is happening. So while you bring in PQC, which is yet an evolving topic and standardization is in progress, how do you try to keep the regulators abreast with these changes? How can we have that collaboration established? We say that you have a thought process today, and we are going to comply with it, no doubt about it. But while we do so, the newer emerging technological advantage, when we are trying to make it something like this, here is what changes, here is what shifts, and okay, notice. Or are you going to go ahead and pin me down for trying to do something innovative? You try to scheme out Dowdy, for instance. So I think here is a broader gamut of this, which we could consider and thought that by the top management and the business science professionals of the organization.
Happy to share some information. What is the role of certification of the how is that?
Sure, yeah. I think there are two aspects. Essentially, as a CA or non-profit CA, I believe that we need to get ready for post-quantum crypto ourselves, right? We need our systems to be able to handle the last the memory here, Dr. Vishal was talking about, right? Also, like the key ceremonies we do, or any of those processes, we need to kind of now extend to these new algorithms and practices. From there, we also have an opportunity that as a certificate authority, we're not just giving out certificates, we are also helping, we are in a unique position because we are already out there in the market. A lot of the platform infrastructure, software providers are using these CAs, these public applications. So the CAs can actually help these vendors generate awareness, right? Help them with creating, like, identifying where their risk is, providing focus manuals and see how the rollout is happening. The other aspect of it is, Mr. Ali was talking about is, hybrid approaches. So, for example, there are talks and conversations about can we do hybrid services, right? Like which have the traditional algorithms as well as the post-quantum algorithms, and then how how fast a CA as a CA can be uh, move in terms of as the research progresses, new versions and new types of algorithms come out, how fast can we get them to our to the industry so that they can try it out on their infrastructure and actually see how it's performing and so on. And so the CAs are going to play a very crucial role at it in this whole system to make sure that the rollout is quick. Everybody can actually experiment, try out what's coming, from research to actual practical implementation, essentially. So that's where I think CA is going to play a crucial role.
Fantastic. So, coming back to you, Dr. Vishal, so you were briefly mentioning about the challenges of implementing the features of this is resource constraint because we can identify. So, let's say if one company or developer wants to start integration of this algorithm, don't know where to start. Where should you get? Where should one go and what processes? What are the best, some of the best practices that one has to follow when you're implementing features of this service?
Where to start? Many places. Maybe just at least, of course, the standards will come later. But whatever is out there, or the draft standards are out there, start working with them. Get used to them. Ali spoke about Ali spoke about the risk, right? So start doing the risk analysis within your organization. That how can PPC impact you? Of course, it's easy to say, quantum computers, they are not here today, not my problem today. The quantum computers may not even be there 10 years down the line. Sure. What if it is there 10 years down the line? Put your probability there. Okay, maybe there is a 1% chance, maybe there is a 5% chance. Do a market survey. Right? Okay, there is so much percent chance. Whatever your belief. Of course, we all have our own calculations, or just use the existing market reports. So, for example, there was a survey done. There is a report on this among some of the most relevant quantum computing experts, the cryptography experts, and other guys about what is the probability that there will be a quantum computer which will break RSA in one day, the current RSA 2048. So the 50%, more than 50% of the guys, they said by 2037, they are pretty confident that there is more than a 50% chance that there will be a quantum computer. So you can take that number if you want, or some other number. Based on that, do your risk analysis. That is my does that quantum computer 15 years down the line pose any risk to my security requirements, my security goals? So you have some assets that you want to protect. Do they need to be protected 15 years down the line? Maybe you have some IP. Okay, this IP will be obsolete in 2 years, I don't care about it. But maybe you have some products for which you may care about 15 years down the line. So accordingly, according to the risk, put your investment there. Okay, I need to mitigate this risk. So when it comes to IoT devices, many IoT devices they have a very long lifetime. Many embedded devices they have a very long lifetime. These embedded devices could be in your sitting in your satellite that has gone, or some space mission that has gone to Pluto and is not never going to come back. You can't simply do some software update or firmware update on that, but you will still need to do some sort of updates and so on. Okay? How do you ensure the security of that space mission 15 years down the line, or 20 years down the line, or 30 years down the line? Okay? You have invested billions of dollars in that. So, for such things, depending on what your product is, depending on what your device is, uh, let's say you want to put a pacemaker in somebody's heart and somebody had that heart attack somewhere in a young age. So you expect this pacemaker to last for 10 to 15 years to 20 years. How do you make sure that this pacemaker won't be attacked by a quantum adversary? Also, one thing that many people think is, oh, quantum computer that costs $1 billion to make. Why will the attacker with $1 billion attack a pacemaker which is only $100 or some $1,000? Wait a minute. The adversary is not going to make their own quantum computer. The adversary is not going to buy the quantum computer. They are going to rent the quantum computer. For example, right now IBM rents its quantum computing. DWEV rents its quantum computing resources. Microsoft rents its quantum computing resources. So your attacker, they don't need $1 billion. They need only a few $1,000s to rent that quantum computing time and break your system. So when you are doing the risk analysis, do your research that many times the attacker does not need $1 billion. So yeah, for constrained devices, mainly because their lifetime can be very long, and many times you will need to provide support to that device for a long time. That becomes a very important factor. Of course, I've already spoken about the constraints that you have to deal with. You implement a post-quantum algorithm on a constrained device. Another attack vector that you are asking about is side channel attacks. So the side channel attacks that happens on embedded devices are based on how much heat is being generated, how much power is being used, how much electromagnetic radiation happens. You collect this information and you can attack figure out the secret keys to attack the implementation. So that is something which is a very serious threat for all crypto algorithms. On PQC algorithms, this is a evolving area. So lots of threats are being discovered. In fact, with PQC, I guess the good thing is because the crypto community is already aware of side channel attacks, the standard itself is taking care of those side channel attacks. So, and with embedded devices, they become very important. In side channel attacks, many times in the network or in the server, many times the question will be, how will the adversary even access my server to take this heat? Your embedded device actually is out in the field and your adversary has that in their home. They purchase your pacemaker and then they run experiments on that pacemaker. And that's what happens in all the attacks that are happening on embedded devices. They legally purchase and then they run experiments on it and attack your systems. So that is another device, another attack.
Thanks. So you mentioned about the side channel. Sir, actually, if you tell about what are some of the lab infrastructure that you need, what are some of the existing infrastructure that you have, or if there is any infrastructure, and if there is any work that you are doing to build up this lab infrastructure, test the data, not in devices but also observers.
Yeah, so side channel attacks and these I would call them physical attacks, side channel attacks, fault attacks, and the other one. So I would like to see it in two ways. So first is of course the device lab part where I can take measurements and everything, and then there's mathematical analysis. So for the methodological analysis, we are very well equipped. Recently, I have some very good publications in top journal, so I can explain a few things. So one is that there is some sidechain attacks on all the standards. So what we did is actually we first took a template, so we know how these schemes work. We did templating, all the things. We took their power measurements, their traces, and then we replicated the same attack on target devices. And almost 100% of cases, we were able to recover all the keys, right? So these are actually embedded devices, which Vishal was saying. But also there is some very recent type of attacks, probably many of you know, it's called microarchitectural attacks. So it can happen in your server. Okay, I don't have to have physical access of that device. So probably know that there is an attack called row hammer attack. So it happens because of these imperfections in the SRAM manufacturing. So SRAMs are in rows, right? And your data is maybe in one row, but I can access the other row very frequently. So what will happen because of this charge and discharge, the other row values gets changed. So we actually did this attack, and on in this Kyber standard, we were able to recover the Kyber secret keys in almost in 90% cases, and in less than 10 hours. That's actually pretty fast in our standards. So this type of infrastructure we have, we are already doing this. I did this work with my students in IIT Kanpur. But physical, at this moment, I mean, we like to take a very optimistic from attackers' point of view. So we think that attackers can do okay many things. We are very pessimistic from a different defender point of view, and then we try to stop this. So for this, of course, we need, but this is actually a very restrictive model. If we want to go it a bit more open, so then we need some lab infrastructure for that. Of course, we need to buy equipment. But at this moment, we think that attackers have all the power they need, and we try to focus on protecting it mathematically as much as possible. Yeah, this is basically, but of course, in future, we will have infrastructure. So at this moment, in India, as far as I know, people have infrastructure for this RS and ECC based attacks. We can reuse them, and of course, we have to, if required, but again, small scale.
Thanks. So my next question is for Mr. Ali. You've briefly touched upon the through transition from the existing the encryption decryption algorithms of cryptographic algorithms to a PQC quantum resilient algorithms. Right? So as a leader, what is some of the advice that you give to your fellow leaders or the corporate leadership on the transition of the classical or existing cryptography to a PQC of the existing infrastructure?
So I think I would summarize about three broad dimensions. Firstly, it is very important to think about a long-term adoption strategy. It cannot be project-based, it has to be a formal program-based strategy encompassing multiple years. Now, that strategy would definitely need to have elements of how you want to plan your resource utilization, not just your people, but also your infrastructure, what you need to upgrade from both hardware as well as software feasibility perspective. Try and see that if you are wanting to go towards PQC, how much of your new system development also is agile enough and is adopting that strategy as part of the pipeline. That's the first one. You need to think about it. The second point I would say, which is very important, is to go ahead and formalize, institutionalize risk management, security management, privacy management at the core. Now, when we talk about risk management, not only talk from, again, security risk is a very, very important risk, but look at the broader implications, right? Like Vishal was talking about, think about the pacemaker example. Don't think about it, why would an attacker want to target my $100 pacemaker and keep it to that? Think the broader risks that are, looking forward at you, which you aren't even thinking about. Today, there is an ecosystem and environment where there are times of geopolitical instability. We cannot even think about what instability means. A couple of years back, by surprise, the world is going normal and we were hit by COVID. We did not know that would be a disruption that would go for multi-years. You've got news surfacing before just the New Year's that, if there is a COVID 2.0 coming in, suddenly you've got, a small disconnect between certain countries becoming into a major war that starts pivoting towards geopolitical instability and the markets are starting to topple over. So even something as good as a basic, there's a reputation reason. So it may not always be a monetary gain that the attacker is looking out for. There's a lot of more dynamics behind it to cripple the entire ecosystem at times, the geography, the region, the organization, the company, 20,000 factors. So think deep into the risk management side. Why? And how it could happen, and then assess the problem. The second thing, because from a security standpoint, even a single vulnerability could really wreak havoc coming through. So not just limiting yourself to, if my standards today talk about have an annual or a periodic security assessment, don't stick to it. Try and do more, go beyond it. As much, no amount of security is enough, and we as security professionals understand that. Privacy, again, a very, very evolving topic, which will further grow. See, privacy is not only about protecting personal information, we need to start understanding the why behind it, right? I think personal information is the focus of risk management today because that can also lead to a lot of vantage points. Today, all strategies are created basis personal information. Again, Vishal touched on a very beautiful point out there, right? Things like small indicators coming around consumption from IoT is going to be leveraged as a trick point to start exposing secret keys. Now you can imagine what personal information leakage would do in terms of an attack planning. So start thinking about these things broadly. The third and the most important point, which I think corporates need to do, and again connecting back to Vishal's point, you can rent out TQC support today and you can rent out the infrastructure today. Do we have enough of resources, or do the corporate leaderships and the industry leadership, regulated leadership need to start investing more into it? We need to invest into research, we need to invest into development, we need to invest a lot into training and awareness as well. The more we want to bring back complex topics in an easy language back to end users and consumers will shape up the future in terms of adoption. Because at times, we even hit the wall in terms of user experiences. Now, the user may not have the right experience because the user does not understand the technology very well. That's another area of investment. Investment into industry collaboration. I don't think one organization, one group can do it all. And I think that's where the attackers are way more collaborative. They cross-share knowledge, pick up points, but we as industry veterans believe in limiting. This is my innovation. I would like to keep it to myself. And I think sharing is caring. We need to go beyond, try and collaborate more, share our ideas, so that our community becomes as strong as theirs. And rather than we getting scared of them, it should be vice versa. So these are top 3 tips from me. Thank you.
And now that we are almost short on time, we'll open the floor for any questions that you may have. And if there's any questions, we'll have.
So my question is on the quantum computers. So always we must react in time. So whenever the incident happens, so almost in classical computers, comparatively, quantum is performing better. The theory says in terms of performance, in terms of computing, etc. China-like country are already they are into the market of quantum computing, where they are started selling the quantum computers. But when it will be available in India, whether even though big companies are renting the quantum computers for research, so what will be the next steps, or how we are going to get through this?
Okay, so even in India, you can now buy quantum computer from global vendors. And at this moment, from crypto point of view, the current quantum computers are nowhere near posing any risk to our current algorithm. For example, we need at least million qubit quantum computers to break these systems. Yeah, around half a million. That's very small. And whatever the China claims are because probably you see that they're making news of months, maybe 1 or 2 months back that they were looking at 2048 or something. We had a long discussion in our community, but well, I don't know. But you can be assured that it's not what we said. Okay, it's nowhere near the same. So yeah, but yes, building quantum computers, I don't think anybody is doing this, but yeah, you can buy a quantum computer. Again, there are companies like E-Wave. Again, E-Wave quantum computers, many people are skeptical. It's taking long. There's not even the power of quantum computing. That's answer.
Okay. So, I can add something like this. That rather than buying a computer, it's more important to see the communication now.
We are already doing this. Hybrid uses, hybrid signatures. They are already there. So what you do is basically very simple. You have this classical signature, right? So once you have this classical signature and you add another layer of signature, you can quantum computation. Sorry, push quantum cryptography. So this is actually very small trivial changes to it.
And for example, most of the certification standards support that. Like you can have 2 keys in your certificate using extensions. So that's what we do. We are already implementing that. We are already deploying that. TLS 1.3 already supports quantum post-quantum algorithms. So we are using those algorithms to at least do the benchmarking. We are also just to information from what the AISS process is actually underway on this iteration. So that is already happening.
We can do it hybrid way, but my question is not technical. I mean, this validity of the certificate is also being an operational feature. I mean, because I already purchased the certificate,
If you look at public certificates, the validity has been regulated. It was 3 years, it's gone down to now 1 year. You can't get a public certificate more than 1 year. Right? And there are talks about reducing that further to maybe 90 days or even lower. So that, but that basically is a very simple, like we said, jugaad, in the sense that if your certificate is smaller, you time to break it, you already replace it. So that's just, I think that's just from the perspective of more agile, even in today's context, quantum context, which will also apply to quantum, but in today's context also, you should have to change. Because it can be quantum, or it can be something else. You know, like how we had RSA something may happen between the lower quantum. There's a lot of time from now to quantum. So there are other things that can happen. I think agility and what we are talking about is definitely needed in general as a good practice for us.
If there's any more questions, we'll take them offline. Thank you so much for your insights. This was really that, like take a moment and have a small token of appreciation from DSCI to the speakers, and then we continue on the next.